go through quadratic optimization. Essentially, this is where we finally get to use quadratics for some real and meaningful solutions in the modelling process. And I have written down steps. You don't have to follow the steps step by step by step as long as you understand the important parts of them. The first step is by far the most important. That is, read the question carefully. The vast majority of these questions are worded questions. The information comes to you in sentences and is easy to miss. Read them twice, 3 times, underline keywords, whatever you need to do and test to make sure you get each piece of information and understand what they're saying. Step 2 is then use this information in the question to formulate a quadratic function. Now, that will depend hugely on what sort of question you have, and it will usually rely on some previous knowledge. So, the previous knowledge might be you having to know how to find the area of a rectangle. It could be any sort of area and perimeter formula you've used before. It should be assumed knowledge, and they won't be testing that assumed knowledge. You'll just should be there. Does that make sense? It won't be difficult assumed knowledge, but you will have to rely on other areas of maths to help put together these quadratic functions. Then, step 3 is what we're really going to focus on today, is using either technology or algebra to find the maximum or minimum. Now, as you know, quadratics will either look like this, more or less, or that, and their turning point, this midline, occurs when x equals minus b over 2a. So if you want to find the exact location of the vertex or turning point, you need to substitute the minus b on 2a into the equation for y, and that will return your y value. However, I should point out that the vast majority of these questions don't insist on you doing this algebraically, so the trick is to get a function that you can put in your calculator as soon as possible and then put it in your calculator and use gsolve to find the maximum minimum. Are you all comfortable with graphing a function and then using gsolve to find maximum min? Yep. The only thing I will tell you to be careful with here is be careful where your view window is placed. So your view window by default will probably be set between minus 10 and 10. If you're looking at profit and losses of company, it could well run into thousands, which means when you graph your function, you get confused and a bit upset because nothing's appearing on the screen. It is graphing, it's just not on the screen. Alright, you'll have to make some educated guesses on where your view window should start and end. Make sense? Alright, I'm afraid I can't explain any more specifically than that because these do vary hugely depending on the question. So today I'd like to go through 2 practice questions straight from the textbook and then give you some time to start practicing. So our first... step 4 is important. Answer the question. Writing x equals isn't good enough. If they've asked for find the maximum area or find the dimensions of the rectangle or find the number of teapots produced, you need to answer dimensions, lengths, teapots, not just x equals, okay? Actually answer their question in a half a sentence, alright? Our first example will come from page 63, question 3. So you can have that question in front of you so you'll know what we're going through, please. Alright, so question 3 states, a rectangular plot is enclosed by 200 metres of fencing and has an area of A metres squared. Show that A equals 100x take x squared, where x is the length of one of the sides. Alright, if we let x be the length of one of the sides, Any ideas how we might approach this using the information we've been given? Well, we know that the perimeter is equal to 200 meters, yes? Because that is the total amount of fencing we've been given. And we know that area is length times width. So we need to find an expression for the area in terms of x. They've given us the endpoint. We know that the area is going to equal 100x take x squared, but we need to show how they came to that. So eventually we're going to use this equation here to find the area. Now we know one of those variables, the width, is x. That's easy. We need to find an expression for the length. Alright, so let's put length there. And now we can use the first piece of information we were given, the perimeter, to help find an expression for length in terms of x. So we can say that the perimeter of 200 is equal to 2x plus 2l. So we're adding all the sides up. Okay. Take out a common factor of 2, we're left with 100 equals x plus l, and therefore L is equal to 100 take x. Now we can take that and substitute it into our equation up here. So we know that our area is equal to length times width. In our case, length is 100 take x, and our width we define at the start of the question as x. Expanding that out gives us 100x take x squared. Okay? So that's part A done. We've shown that the area can be found when x, be found given by that quadratic equation. Now we need to find the area. We need to show that the area is maximized when the rectangle is a square. So essentially they're asking us to find the maximum possible area and state what x is for that. So, algebraically, how could we do it algebraically? We want our equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, so that when we find the turning point or the vertex, we can say that x is equal to minus b on 2a. So we can rearrange that Topper formula to give us minus x squared plus 100x plus 0, c 0. Therefore, turning point at, that just reminds us what we're finding, at x equals minus b, which is minus 100, over 2a, so two lots of minus 1, because the coefficient of x squared is minus 1, so minus 2, x equals 50. Alright. Now if we scroll up to our rectangle, if x is equal to 50, this side is also 50, and if those sides are equal, we can use our length equals 100 take x to tell us that L is also 50, because if x is 50, 100 take 50 is 50, so we have a square. Length and width are equal, they're both 50. Okay? So we've shown what they've asked algebraically, and we would have to write a little sentence to explain that. Other way to do it is grab our graphics calculator and go to graph mode, which will load eventually. and adjust our view window. If you're doing this normally, you'd have to take a guess. It's reasonable to say that the minimum x can't be negative because we want a positive value for x because it's a side, so you can leave that as, say, minus a half or minus 2 or something small. Our max we don't know. We know that the maximum perimeter of the shape is 200, so x can't be more than 200. Or really, x can't be more than 100, but 200 should do it nicely. Scale will be fine. Y minimum, again, we don't have really a negative area, so I just include a slight negative amount so we can at least see the axes in there. Positive could be quite a lot, say 4,000, and then we can graph. Then G-solve, maximum, x is 50 and y equals 2,500. So once again we've shown x is 50. Okay? Note that I didn't have to rearrange or do anything fancy with this formula. I can put it in as it is. You can put in any sort of ugly formula into the calculator and it will do it for you. Okay? In general, the more steps you do with rearranging, the more likely you are to make a careless error with each step. So if you've planning to use technology and you get to a form of a quadratic equation, even if it's heinous, just put it in the calculator and let the calculator deal with it. You don't have to go through all the rearrangements to get it in. A squared plus b squared equals plus bx equals c. Yeah? Alright, so relatively simple example to start with. I'd now like to go over to the next page and look at question 9. And can you all just read question 9 and read it carefully, if one of you? Pretty much, Cara. Yes. Pretty much, yes. Alright. So here is a quite realistic question in that a company produces toasters at a cost of a quadratic function of x, and you'd essentially suspect that that function would look something like this. As in, the more toasters they produce, x being the toasters, the higher their cost. Which makes sense. If the more things you produce, the more the cost of everything. Now, that isn't entirely realistic. If we're teaching you economics, cost production curves look more like this. But for now, it'll do as a model. Z, Z. Alright, now, their selling curve, so the price of each toaster is given by 44 take 1 on 5x. The reason that is, basically, if you produce very few items and they're rare, you can sell them for quite a high price. The more you produce, the lower the price goes. So the price of each toaster starts at 44 when 0 toasters are produced, and as the number of toasters increases, the price of each toaster will drop. The price they can ask for each toaster drops, so the price will look a bit like that. However, because they're selling more toasters each time, it's not quite that simple. Simply because the price gets multiplied by the number they sell. So there has to be a balancing act between selling very few at a high price and selling a lot at a really low price, and somewhere in there there's going to be a maximum number you sell so that the price is medium, but you're selling a plenty to make a profit. And that's essentially what we're trying to find here. Where is it best for the company? Where should they pitch their production level to be at? So that the costs are minimized and the profit is maximized. Now, I guess it relies on some general knowledge that profit is equal to I guess, income minus the costs. Make some sense? It's on how much money you get in minus the amount it's cost you. Now, unsurprisingly for us, they've given us some formulas here. What is their formula, or what is the expression for income that the company receives?
44 minus a 5x.
Close. That is the selling price for each toaster.
1/10 x squared plus 20x plus 25k. I'll work it out.
Alright, one step at a time. Just the income. What is the expression for the money coming into this company from selling the toasters? Good. So it's the number of toasters multiplied by their selling price. Now the selling price is given as 44 take a fifth x, and that's what we see straight away because it's a nice expression. But we have to remember that they are selling x number of toasters at that price. So their income is going to equal x by, I can do something cool here, x by 44 minus 1 on 5x. Close. So that's not a C, it's an X. That's not a Y at all. Alright, X times 44 take 1 on 4X. So 1 on 5X. Oh, I'll just go with handwriting. So that is the number of toasters multiplied by the selling price of each toaster. That's the amount of money that's coming into the company. Alright? And the cost for them to produce X toasters is 1 on 10 X squared plus 20X plus 25. Now note here, those brackets are important. These brackets here are extremely important because that negative applies to the entire equation. If you didn't put the negative in, if you didn't put the brackets in, the negative would only apply to the 1 on 10x squared. Alright? Now, that is our expression for profit. And some of you will be rather tempted to expand and simplify. So, 44x minus 5x squared minus a 10th x squared minus 20x minus 25. Collect the like terms. You can, you're welcome to, but your calculator will accept that. Just throw that into graphing mode. Unless it says algebraically, and it very rarely will, that goes in graphing mode. Nothing fancy, just that. Alright? So, I'll try and enter it here, but because the buttons on my thing are tiny, it'll take me a little while. You guys can try with yours as well. And then practice choosing a good view window. Now what about sensible view windows? Clearly they can't produce negative toasters, so we'll put a tiny negative in. What's a good reasonable number of toasters a company might produce per day? 100? No one, it's a factory. What's it? Yeah, 500, 1,000. Oh, we need child workers or something. I don't know. Generally make it bigger rather than smaller. Scale, yeah, sure. Don't remember the scale. Minimum profit they're going to make. Clearly they're not going to make a loss, well we hope they're not. Maximum profit per day. Who knows, 5,000. It's better too large than too small. Alright, and graph. Syntax error, I hate my calculator. Did anyone else get a decent graph? Alright, so my graph is tiny, so we set our view window too large. Good news is it doesn't really matter. You're not presenting the graph as part of the solution. The fact that the turning point is on there is enough for us. The calculator will find it. G-solve. Max. X is 40, Y is 455. Meaning that they produce 40 toasters a day and make $455 a day, and that's their maximum. Any less than that, and they'll make less money. Any more than that, and they'll make less money. Make sense? Set up the equation, do as little to it as possible, put it in the calculator. Alright, so, rest of the lesson today, I would like you to practice that on 1M, questions 1 to 10, except 3 and 9, which we've done already. Enjoy. No, I'm clicking public, and there are a playlist with 11 and everything. I try to make it all work in a holiday.
Yeah, we catch up with
So, you realise that I've been recording, well, I think I've been recording. Why aren't you that's my yellow maps lesson from the other day that I recorded and put up, and now it's not visible. So now they're all up. Thank you. I don't know how that happened, but is that? So what if? So if I go back into YouTube and just search for it? Yeah. Yeah, well, it's your channel 4 videos, which is a lie, because I put like 40 in there. The same thing happens all the time. They said it's public.
People still not watching the actually click on the video and just listen to this. You shouldn't get
Is that in my dashboard? That's if you log in as me. So when I log in as me, they're there and they're public. And they're in my channel, right? But when other people look at my channel, I can't see anything. Yeah, right. And if these purpose already.
How long do you have to stay? Yeah, General I have to say off, but everything set up my mind. It's not right. Someone logged out of my Snapchat and I had no clue what my password was, and I tried to get it, but remember my password, or forgot my password. So it's very easy. Yeah.
That's everything right. There should be video there.
Mr. Boom, 4 videos. Ken Boom, 20 videos.
2 video.
So that's your Google Plus account. That too. It should be
My version. The new version.
The package looks great.
Yeah.
Looks lush as that.
Well, I didn't make 2 chapters. I didn't make
I love it. Looks that.
Yeah, I always get asked that same question. Do you want the names to be on your YouTube channel? And then if you go right, okay, there's like some button that says not right now. So you click on
You just want this. Yeah, does that mean the team view will come up?
that videos.
And then we'll have to search up team
No, that's what videos are ones like the A's and the test players. And then I'll be reading some of the others. Sure. Okay, the one which what we need to get rid of. But that won't get rid of all the others that have been uploaded. The other one's not.
I used to do this sort where I have like more subscribers. I got had a few of them, and then I just deleted. I had 2 tiny followers in one day. I used to get excited when Twitter when I get 100 followers, and then now it's just like, I don't Twitter for about I just can't use it. I don't use Facebook and Instagram. I like Instagram. I don't like Facebook. I have to use Twitter because you can talk to stuff. That's the reason I use it. I use it like text messaging. Then again, Twitter. Twitter's also good for stuff.
Maybe do that.
And choose this one. In theory, it's all the path of true saying.
I know my school one isn't.
Sometimes I'll make my password something related to something about at the time, I'm getting on making my favourite food.
Outside of your whole Russian
One used to my favourite food was like a solid ice cream that was noodles, and then it was just random things from I used to have like random Titanic things in my pocket back in the Titanic obsession days. That was no, not quite. I just have an obsession with Titanic and I watch it 3 times a day. And all now it's just like just later things like, oh my god, I think it's his birthday. My mum was like, what's the
just started running
they're doing this article messenger.
Alright, Google. Google how many people whoops. Great idea.
And my name is like Sleepy.
One sec, sorry.
Currently what?
I'm 6 years old.
Oh,
My family owns a pressure gauge company. Used to. Okay.
yeah, that's where you are.
Alright, we'll open it up and let's see if it works.
And channel.
should be fraction being Berkeley. You've got videos. 69 views.
Better. There we go. Okay, so when you Google Tim Muenberg online, you'll see all our lessons.
Yep, alright.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty up to date. I'm just, I'm going to go through the review section up until like what I've revised so far.
So
like what, you know what I mean? Like I'm going to make sure that I know.
Fair enough. Will you be
Yeah.
ready for the test next Wednesday?
Yeah.
Good. Excellent.
Yeah. Is that during the double?